The complaining complex. This was a title given to me yesterday for this edition of Guidance for the Soul live. Now, I want to just honor the fact I need to do a mute on something. Alexa, mute. Thank you. Now I can come back into the vision of Guidance for the Soul. When we do these visions, I often get the titles handed to me when I'm dealing with something that is out of my control. When we are in the vision of, I'm not in control, I'm halfway in and out of guidance, right? Most people will think that we need to be in a deep trance in order to bring through the love of our own souls or those of others, right? That's not what's happening, and that's what most people start to understand is when you embody your soul and you're connected to the love of all, you can get information for that vision, and you start to attract those guides that can bring you the information that can help all of us to lift ourselves up. Now, what we can do are various things in understanding what complaining is or isn't. Now, if I have an issue with someone, am I complaining about the issue? Does it need to be addressed directly? How many of us complain about things that we have no control over in our minds versus those things we just avoid dealing with? Or are we stuck? You see, that's the nature of where a lot of people create from. I'm complaining, but I don't want to take the risk involved in doing something that's going to alleviate the discomfort that I feel from whatever situation it is that is arising. Okay? Now, that might be why people are complaining, right? And that would be very simple if you're doing a soul session, right? If you're in a soul session, you would be getting options handed to you left and right by your soul on how to handle those hard to deal with situations that are causing you discomfort or pain. This could be something that in our minds, right? People complain about all sorts of things, and pain is one of those processes that many are going to say, I have a right to complain about the pain. We can help guide you to a place of comfort, is where your soul goes. That's what Brenda gets. Okay, so she has back pain in many ways, but when she's with her soul, she actually embodies the vision of my soul is almost whole, but I don't have to deal with a lot of the pain that I normally do. If I'm not in my heart, her soul will let her know when she needs to be in pain so that she doesn't further irritate or aggravate the pain point. Okay, this is where some people are going to start to understand. What I was dealing with yesterday was a complete frustration with hearing everybody else complain about things that they themselves cause or that they themselves could deal with but have decided in one way or shape or form not to deal with. Now, a lot of this can be resolved with communication. It depends on the situation. But how do we deal with those ideas of I love everybody and they need to complain? So you see, this is the nature of when we say, oh my gosh, I know someone like that. They just complain. I was complaining about the complainers is where I was. And then I started to laugh about it because it's ridiculous, right? But it can get really, really destructive for those of us who are in that vision of, I want to lift myself up and keep myself lifted. And then if we're surrounding ourselves with people who are in that victim mindset, usually in one way, shape, or form, then that's when we're starting to get a little high and mighty, right? It's true. Now, if your situation is something that you absolutely cannot control, that's where you're going to get challenged by your soul. You have so many options available to you to rid yourself of the I have to complain to other people about my victim mindset, right? It depends on what you're doing. If you're laughing in the moment, many friends and family members can understand. We commiserate with each other. That's we like to feel like crap, right? How many people feel good about feeling bad? Oh, those others. That's one form of complaint, right? That's just a disagreement. But if you're like, literally, I'm just complaining about, this is how you spiral people up. We all do. It doesn't matter. We all do it. We all have our moments. What can happen, as Brenda was feeling, is I can't handle people complaining anymore. It was an overload of complaints. I can deal with the news more than I can people who are choosing paths that are disruptive for their own mindset, and they will not take the guidance given to them. How about that? When your soul says you need to go for a walk, you better think about putting on your shoes and going for a walk. When your soul says, I need you to go to the doctor for X, Y, or Z, you might want to think about going to the doctor for X, Y, or Z. That's how strong guidance can be for those of us who embody our soul. Brenda was feeling disconnected from her own heart. She was so wrapped up in the visions of others and wanting to connect with others, or feeling obligated to connect with others. And then what are those others doing? Often, they're still in the field of vision of, I'm complaining about my life. COVID is so tragic for so many souls. We forgot to be grateful for the things that we actually have in our hearts. I love who I am. I love my guidance. I love my soul. You all are being guided every step of the way. You just don't know it. What we often do is we release those visions and go, I feel like I'm on my own. Or I'm with those who are bringing me down. And sometimes we have to let go of those people. Everyone assumes that this is about, love for all means that I don't have any issues with anybody. That's not true. We're not all here to do the same thing. We're here to learn and grow, expand those visions of consciousness. It doesn't mean we have to label someone as bad, but we can say it doesn't align with who I want to be. I don't want to be surrounded by people who complain. So what do? I start telling people what to do, right? That's one thing. How many people know I've got a good guide there, right? I will give you guidance that is usually, let's just see what options you have. That's the beauty of it. I myself will go in as a guide, as any of us are, because we're all guides in our own ways, and say, let me help. And when people say, nope, that's not going to do it, I'd rather sit and complain, that's when you're going to start to hear the soul visions come through strong for most of us. Your soul won't let you just slide through life complaining left and right without showing you in a way what that does to all of us on a soul level. When you rise in the vision of I am of soul, I am embodied, you don't get to complain about much because they give you the beautiful vision in the form of depression, right? She was being told it's a depressive state. It can put people in depressive states when they hang around people who are constantly complaining. Now, if you're in that vision of, oh, this is me aligning with other people who have issues, we're not demeaning those souls that say we're here to make a change. Okay, that's different. This is not about those souls that are victims and are trying to, get people aware versus I'm just mindlessly creating from a state of dissatisfaction. The complexity of it is, how do I unwind it when people want to be miserable? How many people love? That's the nature of a lot of people, believe it or not. They love sitting in it. And then they expect others to kind of, either go along with it, right? This is where that our hearts can come out and say, I accept that you're not happy. What are you going to do? How many people are then feeling the obligation to sit with someone who rises in the vision of, I was a Nostradamus soul. So for me, I still get my future handed to me. And that's kind of what kept me lifted up and understanding that I'm still connecting to my heart and soul. His vision is you let go of complainers immediately when they don't follow the advice of their own soul. Let them go. Right? It is literally like, some people will say, a rebound state of awareness, because the complexity of complainers really does depend on the situation. 9 out of 10 on the Richter scale. I still have to hear from those souls who are creating from planes of victims. Okay, and that's so that I can align with that vision of I'm bringing the future back, so that we can see what we're creating. And then you guys can see the strength of what your own soul can bring to you. Your soul will bring you the beauty of love. And this is why you'll stop complaining about the everyday issues, and you'll start to remember, let me keep creating from a place of love of those who are not satisfied. I love you, I just don't want to be around you, is where it can lead. Or we can say, we can laugh it off. It depends on our own hearts and where we are. If I'm in a lifted state of awareness, I can often kind of brush off the complaints that others have, that are, not as significant as those who are, say, I'm an actual victim of something that needs to be addressed, say on a societal level, or there's a relationship that needs to be addressed. Rather than complaining, let me address the issue. We sidestep our careers, our families, everything for the sake of complaining, is where a lot of people, we do this constantly in our hearts. We're not talking just about on the phone with other people. When you're with your soul, they get to hear all of your thoughts. And that means you start to correct very fast. And that's when the discomfort comes in, because Brenda will literally be taken down in her energy level, and she will get that feeling of it. And she will go, oh my gosh, now I'm hearing all these other soul visions about who I'm actually aligned with. I'm not aligned with the highest of the highest when I'm complaining about life in the most insignificant ways. I don't like how my car looks, or I'm not driving the right car, right? Your soul will back you up no matter what. You would be surprised what people complain about in their minds. And some of it is so ridiculous. Okay, that's me. Others, like me, will get their hearts handed and say, you have nothing to be, complaining about. This is where your soul will back up anyone. This is not about trying to lob guilt or shame onto anybody. We don't demean anybody's vision of I'm in pain or discomfort. We look in and we go, where can I make the changes that are going to keep me lifted up? Is it really that bad? This is where a lot of people will try to go in and kind of work their thought process, right? We're going to be the masters of our minds. That's part of it. But sometimes there are those situations where things need to be addressed on a different way, and where it's not just coming from a state of acceptance. I'm accepting the abuse from somebody else, right? No, that's when we draw the line. So this is not about setting people up for those situations of, I'm complaining about someone who is gaslighting me left and right, and now I'm being told I have to sit there and just accept that vision. No, I say I'm not going to participate or create with that vision of that, who that is. anymore. And I take myself out of the situation. And then I rise into another state of awareness. I understand. I participated in it. I did not directly deal with the soul that I was dealing with on that level. Right? How many people say, I'm too afraid to confront the situation and or the person directly, so I'll sit back and I'll complain about it? How many of us have kids and complain about the visions of what teenagers are like? I have two, okay, twins, boy, girl, who are 14. Now, this process is going to blow your minds because it's an understanding. So often we can find the camaraderie when we go out into the world and we see those like joke memes about the complainers, right? It's not. It's about how do we lift ourselves up out of it. We're all commiserating about the teens in our life, right? Or whatever stage of development our children. That's one thing, right? But we're talking about more serious issues. And it's usually related to relationships or work situations or whatnot. And that's why I want to guide you to that vision of if you really feel dissatisfaction in your life, please reach out and see what can and cannot be brought through for you as alternatives. Now, how many of us know the alternatives? We just don't want to do them. That's where a lot of people I know go. I had to stick my neck out for people at some point and say, I took the beating for certain souls for stepping in on a soul level and taking care of that vision of gaslighters. That's what I do. I hear from those souls sometimes who are in that vision of they're spiraling themselves up now because they think, oh my God, I can just lay that guilt and blame aside. There's no guilt and blame from this vision. It's literally a creative endeavor that we're participating in usually. Others will say, I'm just going to lay that vision and hope for a solution from those other kind of souls higher, right? Could be Christ, could be God or whatever. Many people just place that vision of, please get me out of this situation. You have to be able to take steps. Most people don't get their wishes handed to them if they're not willing to make a change in some way, shape, or form until you've done your inner work. This is the nature of why those in the spiritual alignments are spiraling themselves up so high, because they know it. Those of a more refined taste is what they're asking for. We need a more refined vision of complexity of what complaining can do. It literally takes us down in our vibration. And that's why people need to start addressing it, even in the minds. Now, if you were in the vision of my soul backs me up, this is what that new vision of the third Christ soul is going to be bringing through in the near future, which is we don't just go wishing on a star, do we? When your soul comes through, there are those souls who know how to place those visions on outer soul visions, and they do get their hearts. Your soul is working with those visions. Your soul is not disconnected from you. Your soul is your soul, right? Everyone assumes they're just here. We're multi-dimensional beings, creating from various levels of understanding. So when you realign with the vision of my soul is on my side no matter what, it doesn't mean it's always going to be an easy ride. I have to be mindful of my manners. Let me introduce myself again, right? How many people assume that I'm just going to bring through Gloria Vanderbilt? That's another soul that I get handed to me because of who I am. I get told fashion advice and, that kind of stuff that I don't necessarily pay attention to. That's the nature of where souls go. But her soul would be coming in saying, I want to align with a soul that can give me my heart on the spot. Okay, her vision of designer, she's the designer of the soul. That's what she claimed. She's in that vision of I am all that and more. So she rises in it. So how would we take that vision of Gloria Vanderbilt and place that upon this vision? Why would that soul come through in this moment? Because in that vision, I'm telling you, I have been told many times you need to be high fashion in order to be on the screen. Others are saying, look at who's creating the biggest stores in the world. Do they all have fashion, models upon their arms, right? I get told that about another vision, right? I'm not here to plant the seeds of less than, but in those mindsets of many, right? We still have people who will come through and judge who I am based on how I look or what I'm doing in the moment. Most people will say, I don't want to hear about complainers. Okay. Let's rise with the vision of Gloria, right? Does she honor all souls, or is she in the mindset of, I now know I'm not taking anyone for granted in my life? That's where a lot of us went with this idea of, COVID and the grand exit. We never know when those visions are coming to us. Now, her soul is very much, let me do the work with you, and I will hand you those souls that know how to lift you into a higher level of understanding of what it means for us as women to batter ourselves over the visions of what men or other women or whoever people identify as, right? For those souls of various labels. Let's look at those visions and ask ourselves, does it really matter? Does it matter what anyone else thinks about me? How many people know that vision is almost completely out the door for most people? So if I go in and I complain about who I am to it's like my family, right? I am literally spiraling up with the vision of other souls, and yet my own family can't handle my information. I'm trying to get people to the understanding that it's okay to tell people, hey, sometimes you need to let people know you're complaining a little too much, right? Or people don't even realize how much they complain. It's like the analysis of your own mind. Your soul will let you know. But honestly, some of us just need to be kind and say, hey, thank you. Thank you. Right? Thank you for listening. This is what I did to my friend yesterday. I was complaining about the complainers. Okay? And I said, thank you for complaining. Some people will say, at least I have them in my life. I will take all complaints. For me, that's a vision of love. I understand what it means. Others are going to say, oh no, now I can't say this. This is not about trying to repress anybody's vision. It's about trying to enlighten us to the beauty of who we are. And then you start to realize, oh my gosh, I'm creating with so many other souls that I didn't even realize. This is the nature of love of soul. So for those of you who keep coming at me saying, I need to hear about Jesus or God, it's all there, creating beautiful words of wisdom for all of us. So with that vision in mind, Gloria Vanderbilt is still saying she needs to have her heart handed to her. So I'm going to tell you what this is. When we create from a place of less than, none of you are less than. If you have not embodied your soul, if you have not connected directly with guidance, it's not meant for everybody, but it's a beautiful place to go. You start to realize I can have my issues addressed on a soul level in a one-time, session. Some of us can. Others are going to think, oh, this is going to take, years to unwind. Not always. This is not about those souls who go to therapy are often seen as, I needed help. There are plenty of people who needed help in the field of vision of a therapist for a year or two. When you go to a soul level, usually it's more because you start to hear about what everyone else is actually creating with you. And then you have to get the vision brought down from your own soul about how can I best address this situation that's going to, it's not about bleeding people dry. Someone's thinking that therapists will bleed people dry. The soul session visions are not there to bleed people dry, but it is an acknowledgement of my time and my worth. Okay? Others are going to see those fields of visions as extravagant to be able to connect to your soul. Did it take a lot of money? No. It took me time. And I did spend money. I used a lot of programs to lift myself up, but I did the work my whole life. Okay? So when I come through with the vision of I'm going to be allowing other soul visions, their ability to come through to show people where we are lacking, right? When we assume that those designers have their own vision of love for everybody, many are saying, no way, no how. So it's not about just the elite, right? But this is where people start to pay attention because they look and they say, why would Gloria Vanderbilt be giving any advice to any of us as females or as anybody? She's a designer, right? She has the eye for style. It depends. We all have our own beauty. We all have our own unique bodies. Oh my gosh, the body types. We're not going to go into that. But that's one of those areas that I often complain about. And then I get it handed to me. And that's why I want others to understand you don't need to be fearful of a soul session like you're going to just be told to do the hard work only. You'll get beauty handed to you, not just from your family. You could be connecting with so many souls that you don't even realize when you're either reading their books, watching their movies, interacting with the people around you, right? But when you lift yourself to a place of soul, you get a higher vision of what they are or who they are, right? There's many levels of understanding about what soul is or is not. So with that in mind, I want us to become a little bit more aware of the nature of the complexity of complaining. I'm not here to give a solution for everybody. It's just, let's just be mindful of it. And let's ask ourselves, is this something that I can actually do something about? This is basic, right? No, not when you know that you're like complaining and those visions are actually lifting others up. See, that's the nature of when we need to lift others up. We have to bring awareness. That's a different kind of vision. Okay, so it's not about just saying, I'm complaining about the state of the union, right? You could be, unless you're, taking action in some way. Are you doing your duty, right? How many people are like, I'm going to complain, but I don't vote? But I go out and I volunteer, right? It's too complex. So those situations can be, altered in the moment to allow for a lot of souls to be able to bring through the beauty of who they are. She is the top notch in her mind. She's like, I was demeaned by many men in the industry. She's a fighter, and she knows it. And that's why she says the females of this plane still need to fight for those visions of superiority complexes among the male gurus of the world. It's there. And that's why a lot of the females are starting to rise in those visions of, I don't need another male telling me how to look, do I? That's why she's aligning with other females. Females can be just as brutal. The eye for style, right? That's what Brenda had. She was wearing a shirt that was like, she got told it was like the biggest fashion faux pas for her body type. That's one reason. So with that in mind, this is the kind of stuff you guys can experience if you want. It's not all that. Let me tell you, I hear a lot of stuff. But you know, if you're in that place where your life is pretty good, you're going to have a lot of fun with your soul. So I want to tell you that I'm grateful for your attention. Thank you so much for watching, and have an amazing, amazing day. Goodbye.